I was involved in a car accident. I was just driving and had stopped at a red light when suddenly I felt a violent impact on my back. This rear-end collision started with a discomfort in my neck, and then my right arm began to feel numb. Eventually, it spread to the right side of my body, and after a while, I couldn't move my right hand. My daughter-in-law said, "You've worked so hard all this time, so please take it easy for a while." I ended up relying on her words. One night, I heard a faint voice talking in the living room. I couldn't hear what my husband, Morris, was saying because his voice was too low. I didn't want to be seen as eavesdropping, so I quietly left the area. The next day, I woke up later than usual. Morris was furious and said, "Anyone who doesn't do housework has no right to stay in this house. Get out right now." He kicked me out of the house. What did I do wrong? I shouted while banging on the door with my left hand. But there was no response. I walked around the house looking for an open window, but none were open. The curtains were drawn, and I couldn't see inside. I spent the night in the detached storage room, and when I woke up the next morning, there was a garbage bag and a small bag at the entrance. When I looked inside the small bag, I found vegetable scraps. I couldn't believe they would do something so spiteful. Tears started to flow again. I struggled to throw the trash away with my immobile hand, and then. I am Eliana, a 58-year-old housewife. I live with my husband, Morris, 62, and my son's family. My son Spencer, 31, and his wife Aileen, 27, don't have children yet. I always wish to see my grandchildren, but I can't say it out loud. It would pressure Aileen and might be taken as criticism. I really like Aileen. We get along well. We have similar hobbies and thoughts, and talking with her is enjoyable. There is no mother-in-law and daughter-in-law conflict, and she is easy to talk to. But then again, I don't know for sure. She might just be being considerate, or maybe not. You can't know what's in someone else's heart. There's no point in doubting her feelings. As long as we enjoy our conversations, that's enough for me. If the house is peaceful and comfortable, that's all that matters. But my small wish was taken away in an instant. I was just driving and had stopped at a red light. Suddenly, I felt a violent impact on my back. The car behind me had crashed into me. No matter how careful I was, I couldn't avoid it. My head was thrown forward by the impact, and then it slammed into the headrest with the rebound. My neck couldn't withstand the shock. There was intense pain from my neck to my head. The driver who rear-ended me was peering at me through the window. With a dazed mind, I unlocked the door. The door opened. "Oh my! Are you okay?" And the man who caused the accident asked. I couldn't even respond. Realizing the severity of the situation, the man hurriedly took out his smartphone with trembling hands and called the police. I was quickly taken to the hospital by ambulance. That was the beginning of my ordeal. After a while, I was discharged from the hospital, but it started with a discomfort in my neck and my right arm became numb. Then, it spread to my right side, and after a while, I couldn't exert any strength in my right hand. I visited the hospital again and underwent tests. The MRI test was terrifying for me, who is not good with confined spaces. The sound that seemed to echo from the depths of hell added to that fear. There was no abnormality in the cervical spine, and the cause was unknown. I tried visiting other hospitals and chiropractors, but the situation did not improve. Gradually, I was becoming unable to carry heavy objects. I'm causing trouble for Aileen. It's nothing, Eliana. You've worked hard all this time, so please take it easy for a while. I couldn't help but rely on her words and started to entrust the housework to her. I didn't notice that my husband was looking at me with a stern face. Aileen drove me to the chiropractor. Then, it started to affect the housework as well. My pickup and drop-off took away her time for housework. Cleaning was not thorough, and dust began to accumulate in the corners. You just want to get a massage under the guise of treatment. It's just a temporary comfort. He must have been dissatisfied with the house that was not cleaned thoroughly. It was almost like her was doing the housework alone. Preparing meals for 4 people while taking care of me was not an easy task. Even if I wanted to help, I couldn't move my body freely. In the end, I became a burden. Thinking that way made me hesitate to interfere. Before I knew it, not doing housework became the norm. Without working or exercising and just eating, I gained weight. I must have gained about 22 pounds. I was afraid to step on the scale. One night, I got up to go to the bathroom and heard a whispering voice from the living room. Aileen is also going through a tough time, but please take care of her. I heard Morris' voice a little, but it was too quiet to understand. I didn't want to be caught eavesdropping, so I quietly left the scene. I was a bit curious about what Morris asked Aileen. But I fell asleep as it was. When I woke up in the morning, there was Morris' angry face. How long do you plan to sleep? Are you going to leave everything to Aileen? That's not my intention. You know I can't do things even if I want to. I couldn't help but raise my voice. I don't even want to see your face. Then Spencer appeared and the two of them blamed me. Aileen is in trouble too. If you can't do housework, you don't deserve to be part of the family. Get out of the house! I was driven into the detached building used by my parents-in-law. Since they passed away, it has been used as a storage shed. The bathroom and bath had been removed, and it had been remodeled into a storage room. There were only a few living supplies prepared. Moreover, my key was taken away. There was no way to enter the house anymore. Are you saying I did something wrong? I shouted while banging on the door with my moving left hand. But there was no response. I circled the house to see if any windows were open. There were no open windows anywhere. The curtains were drawn, and I couldn't even peek inside. I gave up and returned to the shed. The first problem I faced was the bathroom. I had no choice but to walk to the public restrooms at a park several hundred meters away. Reluctantly, I walked to the park. When I got back home, I cried myself to sleep. When I woke up, it was already morning. While I was wondering what to do, I heard a noise at the entrance. When I went outside, there was a trash bag. The stench was unbearable. How could they do this to me? Tears welled up in my eyes again. Next to it, there was a small bag. It had some food and a note attached to it. I looked inside and was stunned. There were vegetable peels and a small amount of bread. Enough of this mockery! I yelled and threw it away with the trash. The same thing was there the next day. I threw it away again. However, by the third day, I was very hungry. Reluctantly, I brought the small bag inside. There was a small frying pan, so I toasted the bread. It had been a while since I had bread. There was no side dish, but I chewed slowly since there was only a little. This is good. Maybe it was because I was hungry, but the more I chewed, the sweeter it tasted. I had never had such delicious food. I started craving something to go with it. I remembered my mother-in-law used to cut the peels thin and sauté them. I thought she was just being frugal. I never said it out loud, but I never imagined it would come in handy like this. There were some seasonings and the frying pan. I cooked with the vegetable peels. It was quite good. Despite my family's cruel treatment, I got used to living like that. My right hand was numb and heavy, but I figured out ways to use the knife efficiently. Every garbage collection morning, there was always a trash bag. I carried the garbage to the station. I had no choice because of the smell. If I dragged it, it would tear, so I lifted it, took a few steps, set it down, and stopped. I repeated this many times to get the trash out. Gradually, the distance I could carry it increased. During the day, I often sat on a bench in the park. Winter had ended, and the spring sunlight was warm. The cherry blossoms were beginning to fall. One day, a high school girl spoke to me. "Hey, what's wrong? I see you here every day." "I'm Penelope. Want to be friends?" I looked at the girl named Penelope suspiciously. She smiled. She reminded me a bit of Aileen. "Calling an old woman like me sister is a bit much." "That's not true. My grandpa says people in their 40s and 50s are still kids, so you're definitely a sister." I couldn't help but burst out laughing. Finally, a smile. "You looked like the world was ending." Penelope's brightness led me to share my story. "I see, that's what happened." Just listening earnestly made me happy. "It's terrible, isn't it?" Penelope laughed. "Listening to your story, I can't help but think your family loves you very much." I was stunned and looked at her face, wondering how she could say such a thing. "I can see why you'd feel that way. Detective Penelope will solve the mystery of your family's actions." I couldn't help but stare at Penelope's face. "Your family's actions were all to help you." I couldn't understand what Penelope was trying to say. "First of all, aren't you the youngest in your family? Am I wrong?" I nodded, wondering how she knew. "But you started relying on your family and stopped doing anything for yourself, didn't you?" I nodded at Penelope's confident words. "That's why your family had to force you out of the house." I was drawn into Penelope's explanation. "You gained a lot of weight after you got sick, didn't you? Obesity is the root of many diseases. To lose weight, you need a proper diet and exercise." "Are you saying those vegetable scraps I thought were leftovers?" "Vegetables have the most nutrients between the skin and the flesh. What you thought were peels didn't have much flesh left on them. When I saw the thickly peeled skins, I always thought it was a wasteful way to peel vegetables. But maybe it was intentional." "And the bathroom?" "That was to make you exercise. Since you don't have one at home, you had to walk to the park." Everything Penelope said made perfect sense. Human anger can be tremendous. Weren't you full of anger too? Indeed, I was filled with anger. So, how is your numbness now? Now that she mentioned it, the numbness had significantly subsided. I was also able to carry the trash to the garbage station without resting. My once bloated body was gradually returning to its original shape. I stared at Penelope's face. Detectives don't just look at the surface of things, but at their essence. That's how they solve mysteries. How do you like my deduction? I believed what Penelope said was true. Tears welled up in my eyes. But this was a big gamble. There's a chance you could have resented them and become self-destructive, and there's no guarantee your health would improve. I thought that was true too. And there's a big point missing in this plan. I thought it was the thing I was most troubled by. What were they planning to do about the shower? And you didn't have any clothes to change into, did you? It seems they didn't think that far ahead. Do I smell? To tell you the truth, you smell a little. My face turned bright red. But it's okay. You can come to my house and take a shower. No one is home during the day, so it's fine. I couldn't resist the allure of a shower. I went to the house of a girl I didn't know to borrow her shower. The warm water enveloped my body for the first time in a long while. Until now, I had only wiped my body with a towel moistened with water. She also washed the clothes I had been wearing. While they were drying in the dryer, we chatted about random things and I laughed. I think it was the first time I had laughed in a long while.
You have a nice smile. Laughter boosts your immune system.
I thanked God for bringing me to this girl. God doesn't give us trials we can't overcome. I remembered those words. Since meeting Penelope, a strong will to get better had sprouted within me. A few months passed, and although my body wasn't completely healed, I had recovered enough to live my daily life without much difficulty. I met her almost every day in the park and we talked about various things. Talking to young people is fun. They are full of dreams and hope. Penelope still aimed to become a mystery novelist. I hoped she could make her debut as a writer. One day, Penelope handed me an invitation. She said she was having a home party. She invited me. I felt excited for the first time in a long while. Even though I was borrowing Penelope's shower during the day, I hesitated in front of her house. I felt like this wasn't a place I should be. Penelope took my hesitant hand and guided me inside the house. I stood in front of the living room door, trying to steady my breathing. The thought of entering a room full of strangers weighed heavily on me. When Penelope nudged me into the living room, the sound of party poppers echoed. I was surprised to see the faces of the people gathered there. Morris and the Spencer couple were waiting for me with big smiles. I couldn't understand what was happening. Tears of joy streamed down my face at the sight of my family.
You did well. It must have been tough. I'm sorry for everything.
Tears were also streaming down Morris's face.
Mom, I'm sorry. It was tough for me too.
Eliana, please forgive us.
It's okay. It's all thanks to everyone.
I made a big gesture with my right hand.
But why is everyone gathered at Penelope's house? Actually, she is my friend. I asked her to look after you. I can't thank her enough.
I realized that the atmosphere Penelope had was similar to Eileen's.
I didn't mean to deceive you. But watching you get better and better made me so happy. What do you mean, sister? It doesn't concern you, does it? Right, sister?
Everyone let out a gentle laugh. I was finally allowed to go home. I think I've grown stronger over the past few months. There's nothing like being in your own home. Getting kicked out made me realize how wonderful ordinary life is.
How about we go on a trip for the next holiday? How about the beach? That sounds great. It will be your recovery celebration. Anywhere you want. Can we invite Penelope too? Of course.
I tried to hand a cup of coffee to Morris. Morris reached out to take it, but his hand missed the cup. Morris fell forward. Then he started snoring loudly. Oh no, a stroke. Every second counts. I called an ambulance. The ambulance arrived quickly, but the short wait felt like an eternity. Thanks to the quick response, his life was saved. However, he was left with paralysis on his left side. Now, Morris is lying in a hospital bed. Being half paralyzed, is this your way of apologizing to me?
Don't be sarcastic. I guess I'll be kicked out of the house now.
The two of us shared a small laugh.
I won't kick you out. But you will undergo strict rehabilitation. Go easy on me. But isn't it good? What's good about it? We've been given a goal to overcome the paralyzed body. It's better to have a purpose than just living lazily.
Then I recited the words we vowed in front of the pastor at our wedding.
For better or worse, for richer or poorer, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish, till death do us part. Well said. And God doesn't give us challenges we can't overcome.
I held his left hand with my right hand, which still had some paralysis. When Morris was discharged, thanks to my strict rehabilitation guidance, he was able to move quite well. And then, God gave us a wonderful gift. Eileen got pregnant. We now had a new purpose in life: to hold her grandchild with both hands. He dreams of that day and works even harder on her rehabilitation.
Don't be ridiculous. Me. I have proof.
Then show me. My husband Brent sneered. Frustrated, I showed him a certain photo. How about this? The photo showed Brent walking arm in arm with a young woman. I got this photo thanks to our daughter, Hannah. It was just a week ago. Mom.
What's wrong? You look down.
Well. Hannah, who was usually full of energy, seemed unusually subdued. She looked like she had something hard to say.
If you don't want to talk about it, you don't have to.
It's about Dad. Just then, Brent came home, unfortunately. I'm back. Why are you just standing there? Not wanting to complicate things, I quickly lied. She's not feeling well. Maybe a cold? A cold? This is an important time, don't infect me. He didn't even pretend to worry about Hannah. He's supposed to be a father. Let's go to your room. Okay. I took Hannah to her room to continue our conversation.
So, about what you were saying.
I wanted to show you this. Hannah showed me a photo that was evidence of Brent's affair.
This is...
I saw him while I was out with friends. I took it quickly.
I knew it. What are you going to do?
I can't ignore this. Hannah, looking excited, said, Then you should definitely leave him. It's not fair to you, Mom. I hugged Hannah, who was on the verge of tears.
It'll be okay.
For Hannah's sake, I couldn't let this go on. That moment reaffirmed my resolve.
Hey! Are you listening?
Yes.
Where did you get this photo?
You don't need to know that. Who is this with you?
Explain that first.
Brent seemed to be thinking.
So, you didn't take this photo?
At that moment, Hannah was in her room. Brent headed towards Hannah's room. This is bad. I stood in his way.
She has nothing to do with this. I took the photo by chance.
Really?
It was you?
Then Brent slapped me hard across the face. The force sent me crashing into the wall.
Don't mess with me.
The look in Brent's eyes was not one a husband should have towards his wife.
What are you doing?
The parent takes responsibility for the child's mistakes. So you knew. Listen. From now on, you follow my orders. If you defy me.
If I defy you?
What do you think will happen? Is he planning to harm Hannah too? I won't let that happen. As a mother, I have to protect Hannah. Even if that means going against Brent. That's when my nightmare began. It felt like Hannah was being held hostage.
Mom, are you okay?
I'm fine. I'm sorry for being such a pathetic mother.
You're not.
Since then, Brent started giving me various orders. I was no longer a wife. I had become just a housekeeper. One Sunday, under the scorching sun, Brent ordered me to weed the garden. I couldn't refuse him. After hours outside, my body was screaming and I felt faint. Mom, here's some water.
Thank you. But if he finds out?
It's okay. He's drinking right now. I was just taking a sip from the water bottle Hannah handed me. Suddenly, my grip weakened and I dropped the plastic bottle.
Mom!
This might be bad. My whole body went limp and I collapsed to the ground. Hannah seemed to be saying something, but I couldn't quite make it out.
Wait here. I'll go get Dad right away.
Soon, she came back with Brent.
Hurry! Mom's going to die if we don't get her to the hospital now.
But Brent's reaction was unbelievable.
You expect me to take her? Of course!
Sorry, I can't do that. Brent opened a can of beer and started drinking. I can't drive after drinking, you know. I completely lost consciousness. The next time I woke up, I was lying in a hospital bed. Mom.
Where am I? You're in the hospital. I called an ambulance after that. I should have done that from the start. Thank you. I can't stand it anymore. That man is not my dad.
I realized it was partly my fault Hannah had to say such things.
Well, let's get back at him together, shall we?
Yes. When I said get back, I didn't mean something cute or harmless. If we're going to do this, we'll do it thoroughly. Somehow, I managed to get discharged from the hospital that day, and we began our plan.
Hey, where's Mom?
What are you talking about?
She's been right there since yesterday. Huh?
Look, that's Mom rotting over there. At the place Hannah pointed, there was a human-shaped something.
No way! It's all your fault, Dad.
I watched the scene unfold from the edge of the yard. Seeing his face turn paler and paler was thrilling. But our mother-daughter revenge was far from over. My name is Gloria, and I work as a manager at a small local company. While work was going well, my personal life was a different story. I turned 42 this year and was still single. There were times in my youth when marriage was on the table, but some men told me they couldn't marry a woman who earned more than them. Will I always be alone? These were the thoughts that often crossed my mind. A turning point came at a party hosted by one of our business partners. A colleague I was close to introduced me to someone. That person was Brent, who would later become my husband.
Nice to meet you. My name is Brent. Nice to meet you, too.
As we talked, I learned he had been married before and had a child. My previous wife passed away after giving birth to Hannah.
I'm sorry to hear that. Is your daughter okay?
She's staying with my parents today.
I see. But she's just a baby, and I don't know what to do.
I wished I could give some advice, but I had never been married or had children, so I couldn't offer much.
How about Gloria? What are you talking about? Well, you don't have anyone, do you? That's not the point.
What? I thought you were married.
Oh, right. I get that a lot. You're so beautiful.
It had been so long since someone younger said something like that to me. Surprised, I found myself drawn to him. We started going out to eat with a few friends, but one day, Brent showed up with a little girl. Is she?
Yes. This is my daughter, Hannah.
She was a bit shy, but an adorable little girl. How old is Hannah?
She's 4.
I see. I became completely captivated by this little girl. Then Brent invited me to meet just the 3 of us next time.
I am really happy, but Hannah. About that, Hannah actually said she wants to meet you. Really? Yeah, she seems to really like you, Gloria.
I was thrilled to see that little angel again. But I also had doubts. Was it okay for someone as old as me?
Are you really sure? Of course. So, how about we go out together next time? Sure.
We started going out together more often, and about 6 months after we first met, Brent asked me something surprising.
I want you to marry me. What? But I'm over 40. Even so, I think you're perfect, Gloria. And
Brent gently stroked the head of Hannah, who had fallen asleep from playing.
Hannah wants it too, and she needs a mother.
A mother. That way I can be more free. He muttered in a small voice. What?
Oh, it's nothing.
Brent's words stuck with me a little. Was I okay with this? My mind was full of thoughts about Hannah, and I hadn't been paying enough attention to Brent. Various emotions swirled in my head.
You don't have to answer right away. But please think about it and give me your answer. No matter what you decide, I'll accept it.
With those words, I couldn't give a vague answer. I took some time to think about it. Thinking about marriage all the time, I could hardly focus on my work. Before I knew it, 2 weeks had passed. I didn't want to make him wait any longer, so I decided to give him my answer. About what you asked me the other day.
Yes?
If you're okay with someone like me.
You mean? I will marry you. Really? That's great.
Hannah will be so happy. She hasn't been herself lately.
Looking forward to it.
At 42, I experienced my first marriage and moved into a new house. Thus, a new life began. We didn't have a wedding ceremony. Honestly, I wasn't that interested in it. By the way, what did your parents say about this marriage?
I haven't told them.
Is that okay?
It's fine. I've been estranged from them since my wife passed away, so there's no point in getting close now.
Brent had a slight, awkward smile. Actually, I don't have parents either.
You don't?
They died when I was in high school.
I see.
Since then, I had lived with my grandparents, who also passed away a few years ago. My paternal uncle is still alive, but we haven't been very close, so I thought it might be good not to have any mother-in-law and daughter-in-law conflicts. At first, our marriage was full of hope, but things started to feel uneasy when Hannah began elementary school. Brent started leaving most of Hannah's care to me. And it didn't stop there.
Why didn't you discuss it with me?
I didn't think it was necessary.
Not necessary? We are married. Of course, we should discuss things.
You don't have to be so angry. I said I'm sorry. Words like that couldn't just be forgiven. Quitting his job without discussing it. I was working, so we wouldn't be in financial trouble, but that wasn't the issue.
Why did you quit?
My boss was awful. So, I quit.
So, what will you do now? That's no problem.
He had a strangely confident look.
I'm going to become a novelist, just like I've always dreamed. Cool, right?
I was too shocked to say anything. Brent was already 35. At that age, that's just... I knew he loved novels. I also remember him saying he wished he could write his own someday. But this isn't the way to do it.
Don't worry. I've secretly been writing something. And does that bring in any income? Income? Well, eventually. Eventually? It'll be fine.
Where does that confidence come from? Of course, I was against that decision, but it didn't matter once he quit his job without consulting me. And what worried me the most was Hannah. I thought this might negatively affect her. At first glance, it might seem good that her father was home more. But Brent's recent behavior was the complete opposite.
Where are you going at this hour?
A writer friend invited me. I'm just going to meet them.
Wait!
This continued about 3 times a week. Even when I asked where he was really going, he wouldn't give me a straight answer. And he came back smelling faintly sweet. There's only one thing that could mean.
Can I ask you something? About the meetings you go to, what kind of people attend?
Well, various kinds.
That doesn't tell me anything.
What are you trying to say?
You always come back smelling sweet. Are there women there?
The moment I said that, Brent's expression changed.
Don't talk nonsense.
His actions clearly avoided the topic. In the end, he locked himself in the so-called study, which was more like a storage room. After that, things slowly started going downhill.
Sorry, but can you lend me some money?
I need to go out.
Again? Can't you use your own money for that?
Brent suddenly went silent. Could it be?
You haven't used up our savings, have you? So what if I did?
He snapped at me.
And it's been a while now, but how's the novel coming along?
Just lend me $100 for now. He reached out his hand.
I'll lend it to you if you tell me about the novel. Well, it'll be done by next month.
Next month, huh? All right. Keep your promise.
Just give me the money.
I handed him $100. If Brent had been more serious, I wouldn't have had such worries. In the end, Brent didn't finish the novel the next month and just kept going out drinking. I stopped expecting anything from Brent, and Hannah started avoiding him too. We couldn't really call ourselves a family anymore. When Hannah was in 7th grade,
Dad's definitely cheating. Where did you get that idea?
I saw him on my way back from school. When I asked for more details, she said she saw him at the downtown area near the station. Tell me more. She saw someone who looked like her dad arm in arm with a young woman entering a hotel.
What should we do, Mom?
Don't worry about it, honey.
Okay.
I confronted Brent that same day. He denied it with all his might, but his desperate demeanor made it seem insincere.
This is a waste of time. It's just a misunderstanding.
Then where were you at that time?
In a meeting.
With whom? Brent reached his limit and started destroying things around him.
What are you doing? Stop it. Shut up.
At that point, we couldn't even have a conversation. I was desperately trying to calm Brent down. After that, whenever something didn't go his way, he started taking it out on us. He must have thought it was an effective method, as this behavior continued repeatedly. I might have to consider divorce at this rate. It was at that moment that I was thinking about such things. Brent, who had no idea I was seriously considering divorce, asked me for more money.
Can you lend me $500 this time? What for?
There's a workshop for writers.
It seems to be an overnight event.
I couldn't help but sigh.
I've lent you money countless times before. This time, figure it out on your own. Come on, please. No way. I'm already covering all the other living expenses.
I have my own needs too, you know.
Excuse me? Someone who can't earn a single dollar is talking about needs? If you want it that much, work for it yourself.
When I refused Brent's request, he found a shocking way to solve it. A week later,
I'm off. I'll be back in 2 days.
He left with a smug look on his face. Where did he go? Who knows? He never tells me anything anyway. This is the worst. Oh, if you have some time today, I could use your help with something. Sure, I can help. What I wanted to do was organize the shed in the yard. Inside, there were antiques left by my dad. Come to think of it, I might be seeing these for the first time. What's in there?
Just a regular shed.
I noticed something was wrong when I reached for the door. The door, which should have been locked, opened without any resistance. I had a bad feeling and immediately opened the door to look inside. All the vases and trinkets on the shelves were gone. We've been robbed.
What? Dad's antiques are gone. So, you mean Brent took them? That means he sold them, right?
There's no other explanation. Could I stay silent after this? No way. I immediately called Brent.
How's it going?
No answer at all. He's not even trying to pick up. What are you going to do? He'll pay for this. After calling about 5 times, he finally answered. I'm busy here.
Busy? You've done something outrageous.
What are you talking about?
You sold Dad's antiques from the shed, didn't you?
Oh, that.
I knew it.
We can just buy them back later. They fetched a good price. Stuff like that is meant to be sold for money.
I see. I'm done with you.
I hung up the phone abruptly. Talking to him made me feel nauseous. I decided to prepare the divorce papers before Brent came back. In the end, Brent didn't come home on the day he was supposed to. But thanks to that, I managed to get everything in order. Then one day, an older man visited my house.
Who are you?
I thought he looked familiar, and it turned out to be Brent's dad, Carl.
Sorry for the sudden visit. I've been looking into a few things. Brent's not here right now, but please come in.
Thank you. Carl said he had been worried about Hannah. He didn't think Brent could take care of her alone and wanted to find a way to help.
I see. So now that she's living with me, you're even more worried? Ever since he got divorced, we lost contact with him. I had no idea he was here. Wait a minute. I was told he lost his previous wife. So, it was a divorce?
After the divorce, it's understandable why Carl would be so determined. I'm also curious about why Brent had no contact with Carl and the others until now. But why didn't Brent contact them? I heard before that he didn't get along well with his parents. My guess is that he was looking for a convenient woman.
A convenient woman?
The reason for his divorce. Yes, it was his affair. He paid a lot in alimony during the divorce. His ex-wife didn't want to take Hannah. I got the gist of it. Since he had to take Hannah, he needed someone to raise her in his place. That was the reason for the uneasiness I felt before we got married.
If anything happens from now on, you can contact me. And I can trust Gloria with Hannah. Yes, I will.
I exchanged contact information with Carl and felt I had a strong ally. Brent returned a week later, and things started to move quickly.
Don't say ridiculous things. Me. I have evidence.
Then show me. Brent was sneering. Annoyed, I showed him a photo. How about this? In the photo, Brent was walking arm in arm with a young woman. Hannah had given me the photo. It was just a week ago. The day Carl came to our house. Mom.
What's wrong? You don't seem your usual cheerful self.
Well, Hannah, usually full of energy, was unusually quiet. She also looked like she had something hard to say.
If you don't want to talk about it, you don't have to.
It's about Dad. Then, Brent came home at a bad time. I'm home. What are you two standing around for? I lied to avoid trouble.
She doesn't feel well. Maybe it's a cold.
A cold? Don't pass it on to me. It's an important time for me. He was only concerned about himself and showed no care for Hannah. And he is supposed to be a father. Let's go to your room.
Yeah.
I took Hannah to her room to continue our talk. About what you were saying earlier. I wanted you to see this. What Hannah showed me was a photo of Brent's affair. I saw him while I was out with friends and quickly took a picture.
I knew it. What are you going to do? I can't let this go.
Then Hannah, looking upset, said,
Then you should definitely leave him. It's not fair to you, Mom.
I hugged Hannah, who looked like she was about to cry.
It's going to be okay.
I knew I couldn't let things continue like this for Hannah's sake. That was the moment I made up my mind.
Hey! Are you listening?
Yes.
Where did you get this photo? That's none of your business.
Who is this woman?
Explain that first.
Brent seemed to be thinking.
So, you didn't take this picture?
At that moment, Hannah was in her room. Brent tried to head towards Hannah's room.
This is bad.
I stood in front of Brent.
She has nothing to do with this. I took the photo by chance.
Is that so?
It was you then.
Then Brent slapped me hard across the face. It was a clean hit, and I crashed into the wall with the force.
Don't mess around with me.
The way Brent looked at me was not how a husband should look at his wife.
What are you doing? The parents should take responsibility for their child's mistakes. So, you did notice. Listen, from now on, you must obey everything I say.
If you defy me,
if I defy you,
what do you think will happen?
There's no way he'd hurt Hannah, right? I won't let him.
As a mother, it is my duty to protect Hannah. Even if that means going against Brent. That's when my personal hell began. It was as if Hannah had been taken hostage.
Mom, are you okay? I'm fine. I'm just sorry for being such an inadequate mom.
That's not true. From then on, Brent started ordering me around in various ways. I was no longer a wife. I had become just a housekeeper. One Sunday, he ordered me to weed the garden under the blazing sun. At that point, I couldn't refuse. Being outside for hours, my body began to scream and my consciousness became unclear. Mom. Here, water.
Thanks. But if he finds out?
Don't worry. He's busy drinking right now. Just as I put the plastic bottle of water from Hannah to my lips, my hand lost its strength, and I dropped the bottle.
Mom!
This is bad. All strength left my body, and I collapsed to the ground. Hannah was saying something, but I couldn't hear it clearly.
Wait here. I'll get Dad.
She quickly brought Brent over.
Hurry! Mom is going to die if we don't take her to the hospital right now.
Brent's response was outrageous.
You want me to take her?
Of course. Sorry, but I can't do that. Brent opened the can of beer he was holding and began to drink.
I'd be driving under the influence.
I completely lost consciousness. The next time I woke up, I was in a hospital bed.
Mom! Where am I?
You're in the hospital.
I called an ambulance. I should have done that from the beginning. Thank you. I can't take it anymore. He's not my dad at all.
It's my fault that Hannah had to say this.
Then let's get back at him together. Yeah.
But our revenge wouldn't be so cute. We were going to do it thoroughly. I was discharged from the hospital that same day. We immediately put a plan into action. The next morning.
Hey, where's Gloria?
What do you mean? She's been outside since yesterday.
Huh?
Look. That's Mom over there, rotting. Where Hannah pointed, there was a human-shaped something.
No way!
It's all Dad's fault. I watched from the edge of the yard. Seeing Brent's face turn pale was satisfying. The thing that was supposed to be me was covered in an abnormal amount of insects. Yesterday, after confirming Brent had passed out drunk, we set up the yard. I took off my clothes and laid them out in the garden. Then we stuffed the clothes with perishable items like meat and fish we bought from the grocery store. How's this?
Looks good.
Now, what about the head? Oh, I know. Hannah brought an old doll from the shed.
I see. This will recreate the hair too. Are you sure about this? Yes. It's old anyway. This is real recycling.
A few hours later, we had created a human-like figure. It's summer now. By morning, it should be nicely rotten. Hannah quietly returned home, and I stayed at a nearby hotel. We met up again in the morning. Hey? What are you going to do? Mom's like this now.
Damn it!
Brent grabbed a shovel from the shed and began digging a hole in the yard. What are you doing?
Just help me.
I was filming Brent's every move. He was trying to destroy the evidence. Was he planning to bury it in the hole? And next to me, there is someone else.
This is unbelievable.
Last night, I stayed at a hotel and told Carl everything. Then, we came here together.
He's really the worst kind of man.
Brent kept digging the hole desperately. You know they'll notice this right away, don't you?
Shut up!
And then, unbelievably, he hit Hannah with the shovel he was holding. Seeing that, I couldn't help but rush out.
Hannah, are you okay?
Yeah, it just grazed me a bit. Thank goodness. I glared at Brent.
How could you? How could you raise your hand against your own daughter?
I see. So you all were deceiving me, he said, and just as he raised the shovel again.
Enough, you idiot son. Why are you here? I've been worried about Hannah and tracking your movements. And yesterday, I heard you abandoned Gloria. No, that's not.
It's too late for regrets now. I recorded everything you just did. There's no escaping now.
Recorded?
Yes, and the fact that you attacked Hannah. It could be considered attempted murder. Hearing that, he panicked and tried to seek help from Carl.
Dad, it's normal to solve your own problems. I won't be on your side regarding this matter. No way.
For now, I'll call the police.
Please wait.
If you have anything to say it at the police station. I immediately called 911 and reported to the police. After explaining the situation to the police, Brent was taken away. For now, let's take care of your injuries.
Yeah. Can I ask you something?
What?
Is that man really my grandpa?
Yes, but... Oh. When Carl came to visit, Hannah wasn't there. She didn't remember him because she had met him as a newborn. Sorry.
Oh, Mom.
After treating Hannah's injuries, I introduced Carl again.
So, you were worried about me all this time. Thank you. No, it's thanks to Gloria that you've grown up well. And, can I meet you again?
Hannah looked at me. She meant if she could see him even after the divorce. I told Carl about my decision to divorce.
I'll leave it up to Gloria. Either way, staying with that guy won't bring you happiness.
With Carl's support, I proceeded to the lawyer to start the divorce process. It seemed the divorce would go smoothly. All that was left was to find out about Brent's affair partner and claim compensation in the divorce court. After that, Hannah and I decided to move out immediately. Brent, taken by the police, would be spending some time at the police station. What do you think? Do you want to go too, Hannah?
Yeah. I have a few things to say to him.
We headed to the police station to see Brent. He was visibly exhausted and hardly recognizable.
What? Did you come to laugh at me?
Oh, you know me well. And Hannah is here too. Hannah too? Dad. I'm really sorry. I don't want your apology. I think you should stay there forever.
What?
That's how it is. Also, I've thoroughly investigated your affair partner.
What did you say?
I'll be claiming compensation in the divorce court, so get ready. After that, I successfully claimed compensation in the divorce court. The amount was $20,000. Moreover, Brent was now jobless. In the end, the novel Brent was writing turned out to be like a grade schooler's essay.
What is this?
Don't laugh too much. I got Hannah's custody without any issues, and now we live in a new place. Though we aren't related by blood, our bond is stronger than that. From now on, we'll strive to do our best together.
Hey, Mom, what's this? Is this a divorce application?
So this is what a divorce application looks like. What's this? A wedding invitation?
You're right. Dad's name is on it. So, the name of this woman must be the rumored friend of Mom and Dad's affair partner.
Are you going to the wedding?
Of course not.
Can we go to the wedding?
I suppose so. We're Dad's sons, after all. If you want to go, you can. But I won't be going, so it will be just you two.
My husband Roger had an affair with my best friend Yolanda. He even had the audacity to give me divorce papers along with wedding invitations. As I looked at the divorce papers and the wedding invitations, tears welled up in my eyes. I was upset, but I couldn't think of a way to get back at Roger and Yolanda. However, it seemed my sons had a plan. We'll go. It's Dad's wedding. We have to celebrate properly.
Yeah, it's an important day for Dad. We need to make sure it's unforgettable. Wait, you two! What's going on? We're going to ruin Dad's wedding. Ruin it! You're not planning to cause a scene, are you?
If we did that, we'd be the bad guys.
We'll make sure Dad regrets this in a proper way. Don't worry.
I was puzzled by my son's words. Since Roger often played with them, I thought they would side with him or stay neutral, indifferent to our divorce. But it seemed my sons were on my side.
So, do you have a plan to hold Roger accountable?
I didn't have high expectations for my high school son's plan. But I was touched that they were thinking of a plan for me, so I listened, nodding along. By the time they finished, I was as excited as they were. With this plan, we could make Roger regret his actions. I am Michelle. At 45, I juggle a part-time job and raising my kids. I used to work full-time, but I quit when my younger son Martin was born, switching to part-time. Now, my older son Leon is a high school senior, and Martin is a freshman, so I'm almost done with the hard part of parenting. I met my husband Roger at work, with a push from my best friend Yolanda. When I became a college student, I moved out and started living alone. But when I graduated, I wanted to work at a local company, so I moved back home. I secured a job, and during the orientation, I saw Yolanda among the new hires.
Yolanda? What are you doing here? Of course, I got a job offer. What a coincidence that we're at the same company.
In our surprise reunion, I forgot about the others around us and grabbed Yolanda's hand. Like me, Yolanda wanted to work locally and had come back. Our hometown isn't very urban, so there aren't many companies. Since our desired industries matched, we ended up applying to the same company. Yolanda had been with me from elementary to high school, so she knew everything about me.
Michelle, you have a crush on that team leader, don't you?
It's not like that.
You're still a bad liar. But that team leader is hard to win over.
Yeah. He's very active and outgoing, and many people like him. Plus, he's 10 years older than me. A plain girl like me doesn't stand a chance.
Still as passive as ever. Why don't you just go for it? It might help you become less shy.
Well, I'm not as outgoing as you, Yolanda.
Sure, I'm aggressive when I like someone, but I wasn't always like that. I became that way through experience. Everything takes practice.
Yolanda laughed, showing her teeth, and patted my shoulder. It was half encouragement and half amusement. But I knew I couldn't stay passive forever, so I decided to follow Yolanda's advice. The result was unexpected.
Yolanda, it looks like I'm going out with him. What? No way! You and the team leader?
Yolanda was shocked, but not as much as I was. I had expected to be rejected, thinking it would be a way to change myself. But I ended up dating the team leader. This team leader later became my husband, Roger. We dated for about 2 years before getting married. Leon and Martin were born, and when Martin was born, I quit my job and switched to part-time. Life with Roger and our 2 sons was blissful. But things started to change when the boys reached elementary school. Roger, always active, often took us on outings. Family outings were nice, but the destinations and activities were sometimes problematic for me.
Leon, I can't keep up.
Can you help? This is fun because you do it yourself.
Exactly, keep trying. Michelle, you too.
No, I can't. My sons were having a blast on their first fishing trip, cheering and making a lot of noise. But I couldn't get close because I was scared of bugs. Roger knew all kinds of activities, but they were all typical boys' activities. Naturally, this was to be expected. As a result, I often found myself unable to join in the fun with Roger and the boys, even though they seemed to be having a great time. When it came to sports, I couldn't keep up with their stamina and physical abilities, and when they were excitedly looking at model kits, I couldn't share their excitement. Thinking I would just spoil their fun, I gradually stopped going out with them. Waving goodbye to the 3 of them as they left felt a bit lonely, but as long as my sons were happy, that was enough for me. A few years passed, and when my sons became teenagers, Roger started taking their friends along on outings. Roger was a hit with the kids because he took them to all sorts of activities. The other parents often called to thank me, saying their children always had a great time. My sons admired Roger, who was popular with both their friends and their friends' parents. While I frequently heard other parents talk about dealing with their children's adolescence and rebellion, we didn't have those problems in our household. But we had other issues.
Don't you think he's disrespecting us?
That's annoying. We need to set him straight. Once you're disrespected, it's over, right?
Yeah, let's be firm with him.
As I was doing the dinner dishes, I overheard this rough conversation from the living room. When Leon became a high school student, his behavior worsened a bit. Martin also started misbehaving, influenced by Leon. I believe Leon's personality changed due to the new environment in high school, but Roger's influence was the biggest factor.
Yeah, tell him off.
Roger joined in on their conversation. I wanted him to correct their rough talk, but he agreed with Leon. It was like having 3 brothers. Sighing, I continued washing the dishes. Now, 2 years later, with Leon as a senior and Martin as a freshman, I'm dealing with a different request from my sons.
Why can't we do it? I'm telling you it's dangerous.
It's not dangerous.
Our friends have them too. I'm old enough to get one. Let Leon and me get our licenses together.
The boys kept pestering me about motorcycle licenses while I was preparing dinner, but I deftly avoided their bodies as I moved around the kitchen. Leon had been asking for a motorcycle license since his 2nd year of high school. Worried that it would worsen his already bad behavior, I refused, citing safety concerns. But Leon didn't give up, and with Martin now eligible for a license too, they both tried to persuade me. Actually, it was 3 of them.
Martin is old enough to get a license too. Isn't it time? But what if they start running around town? They'll be fine. They won't get into trouble and will still study hard. They've waited long enough.
Roger, who still often played with the boys, was more like an older brother to them. He understood them better than I did. If Roger said it was okay, then it must be. Reluctantly, I nodded. My sons got their motorcycle licenses in no time. They must have really wanted motorcycles, as they had studied for the test thoroughly. Leon had saved up his part-time job money and quickly bought a motorcycle. Martin also started working part-time at a restaurant and soon bought a motorcycle, a bit later than Leon.
Mine looks cooler. No way, mine has a better color.
The boys often boasted about their motorcycles after buying them. And seeing their happy faces made me glad I had let them get their licenses. However, my worries started to materialize soon after.
Honey, Leon and Martin sent another message saying they won't be home for dinner tonight. They bought motorcycles and expanded their range. This is the most fun they'll ever have, so let them enjoy it.
But isn't it worrying that they're staying out late? They're still in high school.
They're high schoolers now. Don't interfere too much. They're keeping in touch, and they're using their own money for dinner. It's fine.
Aren't you worried about accidents or incidents?
They're out because they want to be. If something happens, it'll be a good lesson in responsibility.
I tried to discuss it seriously, but Roger laughed it off. He showed no concern when the boys went out at night. I used to think Roger was a good dad for taking the boys out. But lately, I've been thinking that he was just taking them along for his own outings and didn't really care about them. Since I couldn't rely on Roger, I decided to talk to the boys myself.
You too. I know you've been staying out late, but can you come home a bit earlier? What? But it's embarrassing to tell our friends that we have to go home early because our mom said so. I know you have social lives and reputations, but I'd like you home by 10 p.m. Your part-time jobs end at 10 p.m., right? So, a 10 p.m. curfew. Can we make it 10:30 p.m. to account for travel time? All right, but be home by 10:30 p.m.
Ugh, now we have a curfew. This sucks. Grumbling, the boys headed to their rooms. My image in their eyes had probably hit rock bottom. Still, they promised to come home earlier than before, so for now, that would have to do. But it seems there's a strange rule in life. Once one problem is solved, another one pops up.
How do you like it? Pretty cool, right? Wow, the car is awesome.
Yeah, that's what being an adult is all about. We're still small fry, content with our motorcycles. Watching Roger show off his new car to the boys made me feel dizzy, and I couldn't stay on my feet. Roger had bought the car without consulting me at all. I don't know much about cars, but Roger's smug expression told me it was a good one. Apparently, he got it cheap from a friend, but a car is still a car, and it's never really cheap. I wanted to tell him to return it, but all the paperwork was done, and it wasn't a small change issue, so returning it wouldn't be easy. I'll handle Roger's foolishness by cutting his allowance.
I'm heading out. I won't need dinner.
Are you going to be late again?
I'm not a kid. You don't need to worry if I'm out late.
Roger gave me a broad smile and left the house as if it were the most natural thing in the world. With the boys now using their motorcycles to go out on their own, Roger, having acquired a car, often went out alone. He came home late, spent money, and didn't listen to anything I said. The eldest of the three brothers seemed to be the most troublesome. Thinking this was too much, I decided to call Yolanda for advice.
He's doing whatever he wants, and he's more troublesome than the kids. Why don't you change your perspective? I'm single, so I don't get it, but don't a lot of people find their husbands annoying when they're home? Just consider yourself lucky that your husband is out of the house. Is that really okay? Of course. You're still as passive as ever.
Every time I sought advice, it felt like people just laughed it off. That probably means my problems are trivial in the grand scheme of things. Following Yolanda's advice, I decided to think positively and not let Roger's behavior bother me. Ignoring Roger's actions did make me feel better. It seemed Yolanda's advice was right. Or so I thought until my sons revealed the truth. One holiday, as Roger went out alone as usual, Leon and Martin came to me quickly and said something shocking.
Dad's having an affair. When someone's married, you call it an affair, right? Yeah, an affair.
They said it so casually, like they were telling me about sneaking a snack, that I couldn't believe my ears. I couldn't understand why they suddenly said Roger was having an affair and looked at them questioningly.
Think before you speak. Mom's in shock. Oh, sorry, Mom. Are you okay?
Not shocked, just. Why are you saying this all of a sudden?
Well, a friend saw Dad on a date with some woman.
Some woman? Maybe it was someone from work or an acquaintance, just walking together by chance.
No, it wasn't like that. They saw them at a gas station getting in the car together, shopping at a mall, eating at a family restaurant, all over the place.
How many part-time jobs does this friend have? Are you trying to mess with me?
No, it wasn't just one person. Several friends saw them.
Why would all your friends recognize Roger? That's strange.
It's not strange. They all played with Dad when we were in middle school.
So, you're not joking about the affair?
No, it's true. One of them even sent a picture. Do you want to see?
I peered into Leon's phone. There, displayed, was a picture of Roger and Yolanda holding hands and walking through a shopping mall, smiling and looking very happy. I had been confiding in Roger's affair partner about Roger's late-night outings. The absurdity of the situation made me feel weak, and I collapsed onto the sofa. Realizing my sons were telling the truth, I decided to confront Roger. That night, when Roger came home, I immediately showed him the picture Leon had.
What's this about?
Oh, that's a picture of me with Yolanda. So, you found out. Roger readily admitted being with Yolanda. I had expected him to come up with a bunch of excuses, so his straightforward admission left me bewildered. Roger had a smug, creepy smile on his face. Hey, will you divorce me?
What? Divorce?
I was already confused by Roger's unreadable thoughts, and now I was even more puzzled by his demand for a divorce. Seeing me panic, Roger's smile grew even more mocking. I didn't understand the situation, but it was clear I was being manipulated by Roger.
I've been thinking about divorcing you for a while.
You're so plain and boring.
Then why did you marry me?
Because you were young.
That's it? You married me just because I was young?
Yeah.
Marrying a woman 10 years younger is something to brag about. But you and Yolanda are the same age, right? Yolanda shares my interests and is fun to be with. She's the better version of you. Switching to her was a no-brainer. What about Leon and Martin? Don't you care about them? At first, their reactions to everything were fresh and fun, but now that they're grown, playing with them feels like hanging out with acquaintances. So, it doesn't matter if they're here or not. What? You're talking like you've gotten tired of them. Are you mad? You probably want to divorce someone like me, right? So, it's decided. I'll bring the divorce papers next time.
Roger left the house, laughing as if he was just going to a convenience store. I didn't mind divorcing him if that was the case. But why did I have to be the one pushed into it? Tears blurred my vision at the unfair turn of events. Months passed, and there was no contact from Roger, who had left the house. He didn't answer any calls from me. Just when I started to worry if he was serious about the divorce, Roger suddenly showed up at the house.
Hey! Long time no see.
Once again, Roger confused me. Standing next to him was Yolanda, his affair partner. Her expression was just as mocking as Roger's when I confronted him about the affair. This could only mean trouble.
I brought the divorce papers. That took a while. Yeah, I wanted to give this to you at the same time.
Please join us. Roger and Yolanda handed me the divorce papers and what looked like a postcard. Upon closer inspection, it was a wedding invitation. Sorry, but we're getting married.
Giving me a wedding invitation along with the divorce papers? How much do you have to humiliate me? It's your fault for taking Roger from me. What do you mean? I liked Roger too, but he was popular, and I had a lot of rivals. So, I nudged you to approach him, thinking I'd gather information about his interests and preferences. But then you married him.
I couldn't believe it. Still, I didn't give up and kept approaching Roger at work.
Since he was already married, I had to be careful not to have an affair, which took time. Not have an affair? This is an affair. You'll pay for this in the divorce court.
You're mistaken.
I decided to divorce you because I couldn't resist Yolanda's approach. We entered a proper relationship after discussing the divorce with you. You didn't oppose the divorce, right? So, it's not an affair. No way! Getting married after just a few months? You must have been preparing for the wedding during this time. And you started going out alone and coming home late way before we talked about divorce. You must have been involved long before.
That's all speculation, isn't it?
I have pictures of us being together during her approach, but nothing proving infidelity. Don't accuse me without evidence. It's not an accusation, it's the natural conclusion. People get married after a day of meeting. A few months isn't strange. Don't impose your values on us.
To me, Roger and Yolanda looked like demons. Without evidence, their excuses would hold up. I had been hurt by them twice.
We're planning to file the marriage registration the day before the wedding, so make sure to submit the divorce papers by then. We can discuss child support and asset division after the wedding, okay? We're busy right now.
Take care of the rest. Roger and Yolanda left, laughing like demons. I stared at the divorce papers, already signed by Roger, and the wedding invitation, tears welling up again. Lacking the energy to move, I sat on the sofa, lost in thought. Soon, I heard the front door open. It seemed the boys had come back from their outing.
Mom, what's going on? Is this a divorce paper? Wow, so this is what a divorce paper looks like. What's this? A wedding invitation? Really, it has Dad's name on it. So, this woman's name must be the affair partner. Are you going to the wedding? Of course not. Can we go?
I suppose so. After all, you're his sons. If you want to go, you can. But I won't, so you'll have to go by yourselves. After getting my permission, the boys exchanged looks, seemingly having a silent conversation. I couldn't tell what they were talking about, but Leon and Martin looked excited. I thought they were looking forward to the wedding food, but it seemed that wasn't the case.
We'll go then. It's our father's wedding. We have to celebrate properly. Yes, it's an important wedding. We have to make it unforgettable. Wait, what are you two planning?
We're going to ruin Dad's wedding.
Ruin it? You don't mean causing a scene, do you? If we did that, we'd be the bad guys.
We'll make sure Dad regrets it properly, don't worry. I was bewildered by my sons. I thought they would side with Roger since he often played with them, or that they wouldn't care about our divorce due to their bad behavior, staying neutral. But it seemed they were on my side. You too, Roger played with you a lot, didn't he? Yet you want to make him pay?
Yes, he did, but that doesn't excuse bad behavior.
Exactly. If you do something wrong, you need to take responsibility.
That's right. This time, Dad and Yolanda are clearly in the wrong, so they need to face the consequences.
I realized I had misunderstood my own children and felt embarrassed enough to blush. Thinking back, my sons would complain but listened when I scolded them. Even when they stayed out late, they always called, and they didn't get their motorcycle licenses against my wishes. Though their behavior was bad, they were principled. They could distinguish right from wrong and correct themselves if they realized their mistake. While they had a bit of a dry demeanor, they had grown up to be honest kids.
So, do you have a plan to make Roger take responsibility?
My sons exchanged looks again. I didn't have high expectations for a high schooler's plan. But I was touched that they had come up with something for me, so I listened, nodding along. By the end of their explanation, I was as excited as they were. This plan could really make Roger pay. On the day of Roger and Yolanda's wedding, my sons headed to the ceremony. I wanted to see the plan in action, but since I had already filed for divorce and had no intention of celebrating Yolanda, I stayed home. I clutched my phone, waiting for news from my sons. Waiting made time drag on, and I checked the clock repeatedly. Soon, the much-anticipated call from Leon came. It was a video call.
Mom, can you see? Yes, I can see.
Everything's going as planned, so keep watching.
Got it.
Leon showed me the inside of the venue. The ceremony was about to start, with the bride and groom just entering. Seeing Yolanda in her wedding dress brought back memories of my own wedding with Roger. Looking at the guests, I saw many unfamiliar faces. Given the divorce, there were probably fewer people from Roger's side. Roger and Yolanda stood before the priest, who began the vows. When the priest asked, "Do you take this woman?" the drama cliché unfolded.
Stop that wedding right now!
Leon's camera captured the sound of the door slamming open and the shocked faces of the guests. The camera turned to show an unfamiliar woman standing at the entrance. She stomped towards Roger and Yolanda, the camera following her. Some guests looked surprised, while others smiled, thinking it was part of the show. It was a scene often seen in dramas, but rarely in real life, so they probably thought it was staged. However, when the woman grabbed Roger, the atmosphere in the venue turned icy, even through the camera.
What is this? You didn't tell me you were getting divorced. You said you'd marry me. What are you doing here? How did you know about the wedding?
Roger, who is this woman? What's going on? The woman's intensity and words made the guests realize this was no act. The venue became chaotic, and Roger's voice was lost in the commotion. Perfect timing.
Yeah, she's really nailing it.
Amidst the uproar, my sons burst out laughing. I couldn't help but laugh, too, seeing Roger and Yolanda's wedding turn from a peak of happiness to a scene of utter chaos. A friend had sent my sons photos of Roger's affair, including one with someone other than Yolanda. It seemed Roger had another mistress. The woman who stormed in was this second mistress. If Yolanda was affair partner number 1, this woman was number 2. It's a bit rude, but I guessed she had also been involved with Roger before our divorce. When I first learned of the affair, I thought one photo was enough, so I only had Leon send the one with Yolanda. When I showed Roger the photo, he said, "That's with Yolanda," so I realized he thought I only had photos with her. I could have mentioned the other photos then, but I decided it was better to keep more cards in hand for later. After confirming Yolanda was the main one, I informed Mistress Number 2 of the wedding date. Apparently, Roger had promised to marry her once he divorced me. He likely planned to keep the affair going even after remarrying Yolanda. Understandably, Mistress Number 2 was furious. Here comes the next one.
Really? This is already hellish enough.
Hearing my sons, the camera turned to the entrance again. Another woman, with a demonic expression, stood there. Here comes affair partner number 3. It turns out Roger wasn't just cheating with number 2, he had multiple affairs. Number 3 stomped towards Roger with purpose. It felt like a rerun. But since Roger was already being grabbed by number 2, number 3 went for Yolanda.
Why are you marrying Roger? I was supposed to marry him.
The appearance of number 3 silenced the previously murmuring venue. This made the shouts of the affair partners clearly audible. My sons seemed unable to contain their laughter, which leaked through the phone. I was already satisfied with Roger and Yolanda being embroiled in a bloody confrontation, but my sons were not.
Wouldn't it be funniest if the others showed up now? I told them all the same time, so they should be here by now. Go look for them. Got it.
I heard my son's conversation through the phone. It seemed Martin went to find the remaining affair partners. A few minutes later, 3 women entered the venue. Affair partners number 4, 5, and 6. They ran towards Roger and Yolanda as if competing. Their momentum seemed to threaten to punch Roger.
Why are you having a wedding? You didn't tell me anything. So you really got divorced?
These 3 also grabbed Roger and Yolanda. Roger and Yolanda were besieged by 5 affair partners, turning the venue into chaos. If Roger had severed ties with his 5 affair partners when he decided to marry Yolanda, this wouldn't have happened. Trying to maintain relationships with multiple women was his own doing. But how did my sons manage to gather all 5 affair partners? This proactive behavior must be inherited from Roger. What a brilliant idea they had. When I first heard their plan, I doubted its feasibility.
How do you get the affair partners to crash the wedding?
Dad goes to places where my friends work with his affair partners. So, when the affair partners come, they'll pass them a note saying, "You're being deceived, he has a main girlfriend," with my contact info. There's still time before the wedding, so this should work. I doubted my son's plan would succeed. A note from a waiter would seem suspicious, and no one would respond. But they all contacted me.
Really?
I couldn't believe it, but after confirming the messages with Leon, it made sense. Roger wanted to marry someone as young as possible, making 10 years younger Yolanda his main partner. The other affair partners were older than us, ranging from 46 to 54, since Roger was 55. I understood why women in this age group wouldn't want to miss a marriage opportunity. If handed a note suggesting infidelity, they'd naturally feel anxious. Moreover, my son's friends, who had played with Roger a few years back, delivered the notes. These friends knew a lot about Roger, making it easier for the affair partners to trust them. I worried Roger would recognize his old playmates, but he didn't. Middle school to high school is a time when faces change a lot. Also, he wouldn't expect the kids he used to play with to suddenly appear in front of him. So, he didn't recognize them. If Roger had been more observant, he might have avoided this tragic situation. The wedding venue had turned into a bloody battleground. The guests were too shocked to move, so the staff stepped in to break up the fights. Roger and Yolanda were escorted to a back room, and the 5 affair partners were taken to another room. Roger looked like a boxer after a fight, heavily battered. Yolanda was yelling at him about something. Roger's battle seemed far from over, even in the back room.
Guys, they've all been taken away. You should come home now. Got it. We're on our way. Oh, but let's grab some souvenirs first.
The call ended as they left the venue. I hadn't eaten anything, yet I felt strangely full. The next day, Roger stormed into my house, shouting,
"How could you do this to me? We got divorced a day after the wedding. It's all your fault."
That was clearly his own fault. His misplaced blame made my sons and me laugh. Roger said Yolanda had asked for a divorce right after the wedding. Since the divorce papers were filed the day before the wedding, their marriage lasted only 1 day. Even though it was misplaced blame, his visit was convenient. I still had business with Roger, so it saved me the trouble of contacting him.
"I'm going to claim compensation in divorce court." "What?"
I showed Roger the photos that served as evidence of his infidelity. These photos were provided by the 5 affair partners. Compensation can be claimed even after divorce, so Roger would have to pay up. Even though he divorced Yolanda, he still had 5 other women. But after this incident, all 5 were furious and abandoned him. Roger was dumped by 7 women, including me and Yolanda.
Wait. Why do I have to go through this? You brought this on yourself by messing with so many women.
Having said what I needed to, I tried to push Roger out, but I couldn't move him. My sons stepped in to help.
"Mom said to get out, so get out. This is your responsibility. Accept it and move on."
My sons pushed Roger out the front door. A month later, Roger and Yolanda quit their jobs and disappeared. They didn't go somewhere together, they went their separate ways. The story of 5 affair partners crashing the wedding and a one-day marriage was too juicy to stay quiet at work. They couldn't stand the gossip and quit. We probably won't see them again. Leon is gearing up for his final push for college entrance exams. Martin enjoys his part-time job at a restaurant and has decided to attend culinary school after graduation. Their behavior is still problematic, but it's typical teenage stuff and will settle down eventually. They're already working towards their futures. Just one more push until they're grown. I'll keep supporting and cheering on Leon and Martin.
I just fell in love with him.
Watching my childhood friend say this with a sleazy grin, I struggled to keep myself from bursting out laughing. "Oh really, you fell in love, huh? Well, by all means, make my husband happy then. Here, you can have this man. So, from now on, you two share all the joys and sorrows together as a married couple. Though I doubt there will be much joy. My name is Kate. I'm a 48-year-old woman with little patience, even if I say so myself. If I find something annoying or troublesome, I give up easily. In a way, you could say I'm quick to make decisions, right? What? I should try harder? Well, I used to be one of those overachievers, but due to certain experiences, I've come to love my current laid-back personality. It all started when I was very young, too young to even remember much. My parents moved with another couple and lived in houses next to each other. Why did that happen? Because my parents and that couple were childhood friends too. For childhood friends, who became couples, got married around the same time, and even got pregnant at the same time. And since their kids were the same age, they decided to live next to each other to stay close. This is how I, Kate, and the girl next door, Loretta, became destined to be childhood friends even before we were born. Hearing just the story, many might think it's wonderful to have two generations of families being such close friends. I think so too. But that only works if the childhood friend has a good personality. Unfortunately, my childhood friend had a terribly bad one. Our parents were so close that they would often go to each other's houses and have dinner together, so Loretta and I were raised almost like sisters. We were always together, so much so that before we entered kindergarten, both Loretta and I thought of each other as sisters. We didn't have any concept of who was the older or younger sister, but I remember Loretta often acted like she was my older sister. Looking back, it might have all started when we found out we weren't actually sisters. I don't remember exactly when, as we were too young, but for some reason, Loretta started mimicking my mannerisms. Our parents would say, "Maybe Loretta felt lonely after realizing she wasn't your sister. Mimicking Kate might be her way of saying she's closest to you." There might have been some truth to that, but since we were kids, it's hard to tell what Loretta really felt. Mimicking my mannerisms was cute and our parents found it amusing. But as Loretta grew older, she wanted the same things I had, answered the same way I did when asked about food preferences, and behaved as if she wanted to become my copy. Our parents saw us as two peas in a pod, but in reality, I was the one being copied. I couldn't pinpoint why. But Loretta's behavior started to make me uncomfortable as a child, and I began to get angry at her for copying me. However, our parents misunderstood this as me throwing tantrums. Well, it's no wonder. When asked why it bothered me, I could only say, I don't like it, and being a child, I was bad at explaining things. Every time, I was told to get along, and no one understood my true feelings. As I grew up, I started to feel the weight of having a childhood friend like Loretta, and eventually, I entered elementary school. From around this time, the relationship between Loretta and me completely changed. The reason is that, by the time you reach elementary school, a natural hierarchy forms within the class. Athletic, cute, and energetic, Loretta belonged to the top tier of the class. Although Loretta and I were never in the same class, her prominence made her well known even among students from other classes. In my class, everyone thought of Loretta as the cute and noticeable girl. On the other hand, I was ordinary, neither particularly noticeable nor forgettable. Not exceptionally plain, but nothing remarkable either. My grades, athletic ability, and appearance were all average, making me a common presence. I was content with this position since I had no desire to stand out. But Loretta began to treat me with a slightly superior attitude. She never directly said anything, but I felt she regarded me as beneath her. In reality, I was indeed inferior to Loretta, and it was understandable that others saw it that way. To be honest, I had found Loretta troublesome since we were young, which only made me dislike her even more. Since we were in different classes, we could have easily become distant school friends. However, our parents were close friends, so we had to spend a lot of time together. I even told my parents that I didn't want to be with Loretta, but they dismissed it as typical teenage selfishness. My parents, who had never dealt with a difficult childhood friend, couldn't understand the concept of disliking one. They believed that having a childhood friend you could stay close with was wonderful, so my feelings never got through to them. I was set to attend the local elementary and middle schools. This meant that I wouldn't be able to separate from Loretta until high school. That's a long way off. I sighed every day. Then, one day, at the piano school Loretta and I attended, the performers for an upcoming recital were announced. Only the top 3 students would be selected, and I was one of them. I had started piano because I loved it, but after Loretta decided she also wanted to play and joined the same school, it became a burden. But it was worth the effort. Hard work does pay off. I was overjoyed and felt a surge of pride when a girl who had participated in the previous recital said,
"Congratulations! That's amazing, Kate." "Thank you,"
I replied with a beaming smile.
"It's good that you finally did well at something,"
Loretta interjected. Her words were clearly barbed, leaving the girl who congratulated me at a loss for words. But Loretta, sensing the tension, continued.
"Are you sure Kate can handle the recital? Don't wet yourself on stage."
She sneered maliciously. The word wet caused an exaggerated reaction among the kids. The celebratory mood instantly turned into,
"Kate, you wet the bed!"
It was something that happened back in preschool. I hadn't wet the bed since becoming an elementary student. However, for children, the truth didn't matter. They were only interested in the amusing story in front of them. No matter how loudly I insisted.
"I don't wet the bed anymore."
The kids laughed and said,
"You're still a baby."
or,
"That's so embarrassing."
The teacher eventually intervened, but the teasing continued for a long time afterward. However, I had a competition coming up. I was determined to prove my skills and show them all what I could do.
"Kate, let's play dodgeball." "Huh?"
As usual, Loretta came over to my house, bringing along some of her classmates.
"I'm going to play with my classmates."
"Come join us, Kate."
"What? But I'm the only one from a different class." "You should all play together."
"I want to play with you too, Kate," Loretta pleaded.
"Please."
Everyone commented on how close we seemed, but, honestly, I found the invitation bothersome. I wanted to be away from Loretta for even a single second, yet I couldn't find a way to refuse. Somehow, I ended up joining their class's dodgeball game. I would later regret this decision. Once the dodgeball game started, it was clear that many of Loretta's classmates were in sports clubs, and the game quickly became intense. I'm not very athletic, so I was desperately trying to dodge the balls. Then Loretta,
"Kate, catch the ball! Stop running away!"
shouted. I was bewildered, thinking, I can't catch such a fast ball, but Loretta's teammates joined in.
"Kate, now! You could have caught that one! Come on, catch it!"
And heckles me. Their shouts were intimidating, and I reluctantly reached for the ball, but I couldn't catch it properly. I was afraid of getting hit and being sent to the outfield, and I didn't know what to do when suddenly, out of nowhere, Loretta body slammed me. I lost my balance and fell awkwardly to the ground, twisting my left wrist badly in the process. Meanwhile, Loretta had caught the ball without needing to slam into me at all.
"Sorry, I got too into it and bumped into you,"
she said with a smile. She didn't seem sorry at all. At first, I was in shock and didn't realize it, but my wrist hurt incredibly. Loretta's classmates gathered around my tearful self, and we had to stop the dodgeball game so I could go home and visit the hospital. The diagnosis was a fractured left wrist. 3 months to heal. I wouldn't be able to participate in the piano competition. When Loretta saw me with my arm in a cast up to my elbow, she smiled and said,
"That must have been tough,"
in a voice that pretended to be concerned. I wasn't fooled by her mismatched expression and words. I was certain Loretta had invited me to play dodgeball just to injure me. Even though I was sure, I had no proof, and that was frustrating. Why did I have such a person as my childhood friend? Filled with helplessness, I cried alone in my bed that night. Since I couldn't compete, Loretta was chosen to take my place. "I'll do my best for you, Kate." Looking very pleased. I was the one initially selected, and Loretta hadn't made the cut. Swallowing my resentment towards Loretta, I simply replied, "Good luck." Good luck. Loretta continued to play small pranks on me, but I started to reduce the time I spent with her by focusing on my studies. My parents said,
"You don't have to study so much. You're still a child, you should enjoy playing too."
But whenever I played with someone else, Loretta would somehow tag along. It was all because we lived next door. She was probably watching my every move. To avoid playing with Loretta, I decided not to play with anyone at all. I couldn't understand whether Loretta liked me or disliked me. However, it was becoming increasingly clear that she was a bothersome presence to me. Feeling the cracks forming in our relationship, we moved on to middle school.
After-school classes are mandatory. Kate, what are you going to choose?
Maybe tennis.
Oh, I'll do that too.
Loretta naturally tried to pick the same class as me. But this was all within my expectations. After that, without telling Loretta, I signed up for a cooking class, while she believed me and joined the tennis team. Finally, I thought I could get away from her. But no. In less than a week, Loretta quit tennis and switched to the cooking class to follow me.
"You should tell me if you're going to change,"
she said casually. Because of this, the members of the cooking class mistakenly thought Loretta and I were good friends, and my attempts to distance myself from her were seen as cold. Honestly, Loretta had orchestrated it that way. But as a middle schooler, I was determined not to be outdone by Loretta. I started avoiding her as much as possible on the way to and from school and used studying as an excuse to not eat with her. Of course, it was hard to refuse every time in front of our parents, so I only declined occasionally, but I felt much lighter. Next was high school. My parents probably wouldn't allow me to go to a boarding school, but if I chose a school in the opposite direction from Loretta's, our interactions would decrease. I'll study hard so I can get into any school I want. With that in mind, I started studying in the library after school when there were no after-school classes. At first, I just sat at the desk and studied, but since I went there frequently, a 9th grader named Dominic, who worked as a librarian, started talking to me. Apparently, it was rare for a 7th grader to come to study. I understood that it was just consideration for a younger student, but I started to feel attracted to the calm and older Dominic. He was very kind and helped me with my studies. He explained things very clearly. As we began talking more about various things, I, who had no interest in novels, started reading the books Dominic recommended. They say love changes people, and it's true. I think I was floating on my first love. That's why I was off my guard.
"Oh? Are you here for the library too, Kate?"
One afternoon, when I went to the library as usual, there was Loretta. She acted like it was a coincidence, but it definitely wasn't. She had been watching my actions as usual. Even though I knew Loretta was that kind of person, why did I start going to the library so often? I deeply regretted letting myself get carried away because I liked Dominic, a 9th grader. Knowing my feelings,
"The library is nice. It's relaxing. Maybe I'll start coming with you, Kate,"
she said. I wanted to shout, "Please don't," but Dominic appeared behind me.
"Oh?
Is she a friend?" he asked. Before I could answer,
"We're childhood friends,"
Loretta said with a smile.
"Childhood friends, huh?
That sounds nice. I'm an only child, so I kind of envy that," Dominic said, and before I knew it, the two of them were engrossed in conversation. I couldn't interrupt their conversation, and I felt like my place had been taken away. It was depressing. As she had declared, Loretta started coming to the library with me from that day on. I knew that if I didn't go to the library and stayed in my room to study, my interactions with Loretta would decrease. I really hated Loretta, but I also wanted to see Dominic's face just as much. In the end, I kept going to the library, allowing Loretta to invade my sanctuary. One day, "Kate, do you have a crush on anyone?" Loretta asked me. And she did it right in front of Dominic. I responded, my voice suddenly high-pitched and surprised, something I immediately noticed myself. Of course, Loretta also understood everything from just my voice. I still remember the smug smile that appeared on her face. Dominic noticed my discomfort and said, "So Loretta, do you have a crush on anyone?" He redirected the question to her, probably expecting Loretta to blush and say something like, "Even if I did, I wouldn't tell you." But instead,
"Yes, I do. It's the person right in front of me,"
she said, pointing at Dominic. Dominic's face turned bright red in an instant. It was over, I thought. Seeing my stunned expression, Loretta gave me the same smug smile again. Looking back now, my feelings for Dominic were probably obvious to any girl. Dominic never noticed, but being caught up in my first crush, I couldn't hide my feelings. I would blush just talking to him, and my voice would often rise when we studied together and our faces got close. Loretta, who had known me since childhood, could easily see through my obvious feelings. My catchphrases, hobbies, after-school classes, and even my belongings. Loretta wanted and copied everything I had. I guess she wanted my crush too. In front of me, filled with despair, Loretta asked Dominic,
"Will you go out with me?"
Dominic, flustered, said,
"I don't really know you that well."
But a month later, the two started dating. They even made a point to tell me about their relationship. I still think I shouldn't have gone to the library if it was going to hurt so much. After that, I stopped going to the library, and before I knew it, Loretta and Dominic had broken up. Maybe Loretta lost interest because I gave up on Dominic. I focused even more on my studies and eventually became a high school student. When applying to high schools, I kept my preferred school a secret from Loretta, but my parents found out, and I almost ended up going to the same school as her. I chose a boarding school that was significantly below my level. Loretta threw a tantrum about going to the same high school, but my chosen school had a bad reputation with previous students being arrested, so Loretta's parents stopped her from going there. I should have aimed lower from the start. Despite my parents crying, I successfully separated myself from her. I continued my studies in high school and eventually got into a top-tier university, moving out of state. Because it was a boarding school, I had measures in place to deceive my parents about my real college preference, so Loretta and I ended up in different universities. By the time we started working, we both found jobs out of state and became estranged. Eventually, I married a man named Eric whom I met at work. Life was going smoothly, but in the summer of our first year of marriage, when we returned to my parents' house for Thanksgiving with Eric, I saw Loretta again. Loretta was also married and was visiting her parents for the first time in a while. Then our parents said,
"Since it's been a while, let's have a family dinner together."
And we ended up having a meal with Loretta's family, my family, and our parents. Well, I thought if I could just endure this one day, I would somehow manage. It was about half a year after Thanksgiving. Eric's affair came to light. And the other person was Loretta. How did I find out? I caught them in the act, in a car parked in our driveway early in the morning. It turns out they had exchanged contact information during that visit home and had been seeing each other frequently since. Loretta is currently separated from her husband and lives nearby. According to Eric, he made the first move on Loretta, but I suspect it was Loretta who orchestrated the whole thing. She must have wanted what was mine again. Both of them said they had fallen for each other and wanted a divorce, and I,
"Fine, have it your way,"
ended up getting divorced in a fit of anger. After that, I moved to another state and changed jobs. I met and married a man named Freddie who runs his own business. We had a child, and just as I thought I had regained my happy days. When my child started elementary school, I froze at the entrance ceremony. There was Loretta, with a child who looked just like Eric.
Hey, long time no see.
Loretta greeted me cheerfully.
What are you doing here?
I was stunned.
I told your parents I wanted to apologize to Kate for taking Eric, and they told me where to find you.
Loretta replied. Needless to say, I was furious with my parents. After the divorce from Eric, my parents had been on my side, understanding the reason for our split. But after I remarried and had a child, they started thinking, you should reconcile since you were childhood friends. I understood their feelings since our situation had strained their relationship with Eric's parents, but there was no way I could make up with someone who took Eric from me.
It looks like our kids are in the same class, so let's get along as mom friends from now on.
Loretta said with a smile. It was only the entrance ceremony, but I secretly thought, I wish it were already graduation. After that, Loretta stuck to me as a childhood friend among the mom friends gatherings. But her demeanor hadn't changed, and I could sense her subtle intimidation in her words. Comments like, you've aged since having a child, or your husband will lose interest in you. She often indirectly criticized my femininity, as if reminding me that she had taken my husband in the past. Many mom friends admired Loretta's communication skills, leaving me no room to counter her. If it had only affected me, I could have spoken up, but I was worried about how it would affect my child if there were rifts among the mom friends. To make matters worse, the community seemed tightly knit, with frequent family barbecues and camping events. Having to interact with both Loretta and Eric was nothing but stress for me. Well, luckily, my current husband Freddie knows about my past with Loretta. Having an understanding partner by my side was a great comfort. Or so I thought.
Because I fell in love. What?
One day, Freddie asked me to make time to talk, and we arranged to discuss things at home while our child was at school. The concerned party who showed up was none other than Loretta. Apparently, they were now having an affair. Again?
Why do you always take what's mine?
I accused Loretta, but she,
because I fell in love.
Can't help it, gave me an answer that wasn't an answer at all.
You know, because we're both serious, I want to divorce Eric and remarry.
Oh, should I return your ex-husband? Loretta laughed as she said this.
I don't want him. You can have both of the men.
Seriously, right? To be with someone like Freddie, ha ha ha, good luck with that. But I won't tell her the truth. Thinking this, I answered with a smile.
I'll divorce him for you.
1 month later, Loretta came to my house.
What is going on? Why didn't you tell me?
What are you talking about? I pretended to be clueless. Of course, Loretta saw right through me.
Don't play dumb.
And got angry.
Why didn't you tell me Freddie was unemployed?
Did I need to?
You wanted to remarry because you truly love him, right? I'd like to see some spirit like, I'll support him. You knew and didn't tell me on purpose.
Of course.
In fact, we were already talking about divorce before you even asked for it. What?
Loretta's eyes widened at my words.
Freddie didn't just lose his job, he also took on a lot of debt to try to save his company. We had a huge fight because I hadn't been told about it. You probably thought you took my husband from me and felt triumphant, but actually, I was just giving away someone I didn't want.
Loretta, now understanding everything.
What?
Raised her voice.
So, you knew and still went through with not just the division of assets, but also filed for alimony and child support?
Of course.
It's only natural for me to claim what I'm owed, and it's offensive to be called a bad woman for it. You're the worst! And you have the nerve to say that? You brought this on yourself. Just like before, you probably thought you'd have Freddie pay for everything, but he doesn't have any money left. You'll have to pay it yourself. This is the worst. Because of you, my life is a mess. I'm grateful, really. Thanks for taking a nearly bankrupt, cheating husband off my hands.
I smiled as Loretta burst into tears. My previous husband had income from investments, so even when I demanded compensation in the divorce trial, he paid it easily. So Loretta probably thought, if I remarry, we'll be husband and wife, and my new husband can pay everything as well. After all, she knew Freddie was making a decent living from his business. She must have been counting on that. But not only did her plan fail, it turned out he was in debt and completely unreliable. Well, no wonder she's crying. Serves her right.
I got this house as part of the divorce settlement, but I'm planning to sell it and move. So what?
Loretta glared at me as if even hearing my words was annoying. She still didn't seem to understand her position. She looked like she thought she was still on top. Time to show her hell.
I'm going to tell all the mom friends about your misdeeds. What? Whether they side with me or not, you'll at least have to deal with being talked about behind your back.
I'll just move away too.
You're such an idiot. Don't you know your husband's personality? Husband? Which one? What are you talking about? I'm talking about my ex-husband, Eric.
He's very jealous. If you mention divorce, he'll probably start stalking you. Good luck with that, I added, and Loretta froze. Switching to another man and being abandoned, there's no way he'd allow that. Ha ha ha, I can't wait to see what happens next. With that, I walked back home, ignoring Loretta, who stood there in shock. Loretta rang the doorbell multiple times.
Please reconsider the compensation from the divorce settlement,
she pleaded, but I ignored her completely. Later on, shortly before I moved out, a certain flyer was distributed around the neighborhood. It exposed Loretta's infidelity. It even listed all her past relationships. For the record, it wasn't me. However, since the flyer described Loretta's behavior inside the house, it was clear that my first husband, Eric, whom Loretta had divorced, was the one behind it. Meanwhile, despite it being half a year since the divorce, Loretta hadn't remarried. This was because her second husband, Freddie, who had paid me the compensation and child support in cash, had gone bankrupt. He still intended to start fresh with Loretta, but then came the flyer scandal. When Freddie learned about Loretta's entire dating history, he abandoned her. Loretta herself might have intended to abandon him, but since she was abandoned first, she was quite bitter. Her once sweet demeanor had turned harsh, perhaps due to constant irritation. Seeing Loretta's living conditions and behavior, her parents decided, our daughter can't raise a child in her current state, and took the child into their care. Those who had been close to Loretta were no longer her friends, as she no longer had a child and was no longer part of the mom circle. Moreover, hearing about her promiscuous lifestyle, they were disillusioned. Vandalism and harassment increased at Loretta's house, and she was told to leave the community. She wanted to move but had no money, and although she wanted to sue over the flyer, money was still an issue. On top of that, Eric continued to stalk Loretta. He planned to reconcile for money, but Eric wasn't that foolish.
I want you to see the real me, so I won't remarry,
he said, and continued to watch over her to prevent her from finding a new man. It was really creepy. Meanwhile, I moved out of state with my child and am now working hard as a single mother. I've had enough of marriage, so from now on, I plan to live putting my son first. As I've gotten older and lost my grip strength, he helps open jars for me, and when I'm exhausted, he gives me massages. He's really grown into a kind boy. Although Loretta ensured I had terrible luck with men, when it comes to my son, you could say I had good luck with one male. Though it's a different kind of meaning than usual. We're not particularly wealthy, nor am I a career woman working solely for my job. It's just an ordinary day-to-day life. But for someone who's had a tumultuous life, the warm daily life with my son and 3 cats is the happiest time I've ever had. Since then, Loretta hasn't appeared before me. Well, it's understandable given the trauma she's caused me and the fact that Eric is watching her, so she can't do anything rash. At last, I feel like I've found true happiness. Now, I need to wake up early tomorrow and make lunch for my son. I'll do my best this week too. Yay!